How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another rendition of Hot Takes with Holmes here on Radio Free Radford. My name is Blake Holmes, and as always, I'm here with my co-host Isaiah Addair. Stick around with us. Today we're going to be talking about the recent action on the NFL, NCAA, and the NBA season. But first, if you ever like what you hear on Radio Free Radford, again, be sure to follow those social media pages. I plug this every week, and it's for a good reason. Their Twitter is at Radio Free Raddy, Instagram is Radio Free Radford, and Facebook is Radio Free Radford. Follow, like, comment on to those social media pages to keep up with the fantastic content that goes out on this online radio station each and every day of the week. But again, let's start off like we always do in our favorite parts of the show, the National Football League. Of course, the NFL trade deadline was this past week, so a lot of different roster moves have happened in the past week, with some examples being Demaryius Thomas from the Denver Broncos, Dante Fowler Jr. from the Jacksonville Jaguars to the Los Angeles Rams, Golden Tate to Philadelphia, Ty Montgomery to Baltimore, and HaHa Clinton-Dix to the Washington Redskins. Isaiah, go over some of those trades for us, and also, who do you think really won the trade deadline, if there was a team that you can think of that you think had the most benefit from the trade deadline?
Okay, I think I'm talking about the trades. I want to say that the most influential in my mind are probably the Eagles getting Golden Tate and the Texans getting Demaryius Thomas. Yes, two wide receivers. Okay, but look at it this way. Okay, Demaryius Thomas is filling the role Will Fowler had. Not as fast, but a better route runner, better catch in traffic, everything like that, right? Give Deshaun Watson another piece to his arsenal that already took a hit. He might be better than Will Fuller right now in his career because he's more polished, he has more experience. So that's definitely a win. And the Eagles got the playmaker they needed in Golden Tate. Nelson Aguilar has not had a great season. Mike Wallace has been hurt. Alshon Jeffrey has been doing everything. Him and Zach Ertz been everything on the offense. Besides, they can't throw the ball, but everything else. Golden Tate, great. You run after catch, screens, good route runner. Get a deep ball to him, opens the offense up so much more. So I say those were the two best, and I would say overall that the winner, in my opinion, though, would probably end up being. I'm not going to go those two because I think it's really influential. But might be Dante Fowler going to the Rams. Because their defense is already great. You got Dante Fowler, yeah. The team lost. They got their first loss of the season to the Saints last night. But add another dimension, a little more pass rushing. He's going to be more of a rotational player. But I think it just makes an elite defense even more powerful.
I have to agree with you. Dante Fowler Jr., adding that to a defense that has been one of the league's best, if not the best, in the early part of this season is the most influential thing. And I think that you've got to say either, and I'm going to go along the same path that you did. I'm going to say either the Los Angeles Rams win the trade deadline, or I think the Washington Redskins do. Because the Redskins got a very starting caliber strong safety in HaHa Clinton-Dix. He's a very talented defensive back. He's proven it time and time again, coming out of a pedigree such as Alabama, then going through Green Bay, playing alongside a guy like Morgan Burnett for all these years. And then he's had a little bit of a down year this year, but overall he hasn't been too terrible by any means. Washington needed help on the secondary with that upside from Josh Norman, so they bring in HaHa Clinton-Dix, and they're trying to win an NFC East title, and they have a very good chance to do that. So bringing in extra secondary help in the form of HaHa Clinton-Dix really helps their chances to win the NFC East, because really the only teams that are competing with them right now are the Dallas Cowboys and at times the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Washington Redskins, I think they won the deadline with that move for HaHa Clinton-Dix. Next, something that I think honestly was blown way out of proportion this past week, but I still want to touch on it. The fabled GOAT versus GOAT matchup. Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers. Of course, Tom Brady and the New England Patriots did get a win over the struggling Green Bay Packers at times, 31-17 at home. And here's why I say it's not necessarily fair to call this a GOAT versus GOAT matchup. First off, it's the regular season. Yes, right. I'm not saying regular season does not matter. It does, absolutely. It's what gets you into the playoffs, and it's what gets you close to a great seed to set yourself up in the playoffs. But every single advantage was going in Tom Brady's favor. Let's be real. Tom Brady, he's starting to gel with his receivers that are Josh Gordon, and he's got Edelman back. Like Gronk, he's got this receiving core. He's starting to gel with Gordon a little bit more. Had 5 receptions for over 130 yards last night and a touchdown. So he's starting to gel with Josh Gordon. He has it home. The Packers have dropped a few games here recently. The Patriots have been the opposite. They've been on a roll. I don't think this was a fair comparison. Don't get me wrong, I think Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, and to me, it's almost not even debatable. But I don't think that this was a fair comparison to say that Aaron Rodgers will never live up and be the GOAT because he never won this game in Foxborough. Everyone knows how hard it is to win in Foxborough against a red-hot Patriots team like right now. So what are your thoughts on the fabled GOAT versus GOAT matchup?
Good quarterback play, but like you said, it's obviously in the Patriots' favor. Coaching, advantage New England. Quarterback, you can make the argument at their stages in their career, the way they've been playing this year, it could possibly go either way. Aaron Rodgers is healthy, really healthy for the first time in a few years. But I'm going to look at it like this. The Packers' best running back, they just traded Ty Montgomery, right, to the Ravens. Their leading receiver, Marcus Valdez-Scantling. You ever heard of him? Nope, me neither. And he had 100 yards on 3 catches, only 3 catches. If you look at the Patriots, Julian Edelman threw a 37-yard pass. Brady, obviously, he did Brady things, a 99 quarterback rating. Leading rusher, Cordarrelle Patterson, a wide receiver. Then James White, of course. Third leading rusher, Julian Edelman, a wide receiver. They have such a dynamic offense. Everyone can do everything. The only one-trick pony on that offense is Tom Brady. And he's the best ever at what he does. And he's the only one that only does one thing. Even the offensive line, I believe, can spread out. One of them might be able to play tight end, who knows. But, so dynamic. We might not see the Patriots lose another game this year. And that's just how dynamic their team is, thanks to Bill Belichick.
And you say the only one-trick pony is Tom Brady. I think that one trick is being really, really good because he's done it for so long. Moving on to what our favorite, I believe, I'm in consensus in saying this, what our favorite things to do here on Hot Takes with Holmes is our week-by-week NFL game predictions. We haven't been keeping track of actual records so far this year, so we'll have to do that maybe in the future. But anyways, moving on to Week 10. And starts off on a Thursday night. I know my good friends listening somewhere. The Carolina Panthers taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Heinz Field on a Thursday night. Now, Pittsburgh does have the home game, and typically in this series, and whenever the Carolina Panthers and the Pittsburgh Steelers play against each other, the home team does have an advantage. However, it's Thursday night. It's so hard to predict what happens on a Thursday night. You could talk about how Pittsburgh's won 3 straight games. You could talk about how it's at home for them, or you could talk about how dynamic Carolina's been, how great Cam Newton's been, Curtis Samuel making his breakout yesterday, and there's so many storylines and directions you can go in this game in a Thursday night in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. As much as it pains me to say this, I am going to doubt my team for the first time this year. I'm going to pick the Panthers to win this game because I really think that Carolina, and the way that Cam Newton is playing right now, he's been playing on another level the past couple of weeks. Again, Christian McCaffrey's still insane, very athletic. Their defense started to look good, aside from a couple of suspect spots in the secondary, case in point, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, Captain Mutterland. Everything else I think is fine. Dante Jackson's still playing fantastic in that secondary. I think it's close. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, and I'm very close to saying that I think that I do think that Pittsburgh has a very good chance to win, but this is the type of primetime game that Pittsburgh will come in. They usually play pretty well at primetime, but after coming off of a roll, they usually struggle against a team like Carolina because Carolina is so great and dynamic coming into a Thursday night. So I'm picking Carolina to win this game, even though it's the first time this year I believe I haven't picked Pittsburgh.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for this matchup because both teams are really hot. I think Carolina might have won 4 straight, is it? Yeah. They haven't lost since they came back against Philly. That's 17
correct.
points. I think that might be 3 or 4 games straight. Three. Okay, so both riding off a 3-game win streak around there. The matchup predictor actually says Pittsburgh has the upper hand by about 31%. I don't buy that. I think it might go to OT. Thursday night games are crazy. We've seen a lot of blowouts on Thursday night this year. Cough, cough, Arizona and Denver. But, like, I think I've got to agree with you. I've got to give it to Carolina. Just because Curtis Samuel, like, Le'Veon could come back this week. I think it's his last chance to come back, right? But if he comes back, they're going to rival Carolina's two-headed monster in the backfield now with Curtis Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. But I have to give it to Carolina. Like I said, they're more dynamic. Not as many options in the passing game, but definitely have versatility on offense.
Now, to counter your point, Le'Veon doesn't have to come back this week as long as he's back by next Tuesday. Then he does play this year. But he has to play in at least week 11 on, so he has to play at least 6 games. Typically, if you don't have a bye week at this point, it's week 10. But since the Steelers have already had a bye week, he can wait another week longer and then come back into Tuesday. So, that being said, that's 2 picks for Carolina. Moving on to Sunday. At 1 p.m., we have the Detroit Lions traveling to Chicago to take on the Chicago Bears. I'll be honest. They traded for Khalil Mack. I never would have thought that Chicago would be sitting at 5-3 right now, though. I thought that they could be close to 500. I thought maybe a 3-5 record at this point. I didn't expect 5-3 in the NFC North, where NFC North is pretty wide open right now. With the Packers have struggled a little bit. The Vikings are still they're up and down. Feel like one point they are great, the next minute they struggle. So I think the Bears continue their roll. I like them to win this game at home in Soldier Field. I think Stafford plays very well against this defense, even with Khalil Mack running into his face mask. But I like the Bears to take home this win. They don't have to go too very far because they're at home. Give me the Bears.
So interesting. The Bears are only a half game back from first place. If they win this, since the Vikings are on a bye week, they'll take a half game lead due to the Vikings-Packers tying earlier this year. 2-game lead over the Packers, which is funny, I think, as well. But, yeah, I've got to go the Bears. Monsters of the Midway are back, and I'm loving it. The offense is playing really good, still super dynamic. They could have beat Tom Brady if it wasn't for a Hail Mary being a yard short, which would change the landscape of, I think, their whole division. Yeah, give me the Bears. They're taking first place, and the Lions are going to fall to 3-6.
Not to mention they just traded Golden Tate. Kenny Golladay has been fantastic for them so far, but they just traded Golden Tate, so they'll be short a weapon for Matthew Stafford. The New Orleans Saints taking on the reeling Cincinnati Bengals. I shouldn't say reeling. They've won 2 straight, but they haven't looked as impressive as they did earlier in this year. Really coming off of that game in Pittsburgh, they just barely scraped by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and last week they got a win as well. And the New Orleans Saints are just on a roll right now. They've just beaten probably the best team in the NFC on paper at home. It's in Cincinnati, but I like the Saints to continue rolling. And I think we're going to have a tough race for the top of the NFC between New Orleans and the Rams at the end of the season.
Who can beat New Orleans? One loss to Kansas City before Mark Ingram came back, I'm pretty sure. Second game of the year. 6-game win streak. Look at this. Drew Brees is on pace to finish with just below 5,000 yards. Again. And over 30 touchdowns. Probably closer to 40 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara on pace to have close to 1,000 rushing yards. Probably will make it to 1,000. And I'm probably about 700 receiving yards, honestly. And 20 touchdowns. Michael Thomas on pace for 1,700 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns, and 140 catches. Shattering the record. This is crazy. The whole offense, the defense is playing really well, which is kind of weird because of the Saints. Oh my goodness, I just love the Saints offense right now. Drew Brees is the best we've ever saw him. And 60 incomplete passes out of 280 passes this year. And like you said, the Bengals aren't what they started the season to be. I think large part due to injury, but still. A.J. Green's doubtful for this game. So give me New Orleans by a long shot, by a landslide.
The Atlanta Falcons taking on the Cleveland Browns at home. Cleveland had a scare last game against the Kansas City Chiefs, the best team in the AFC. Baker Mayfield goes down, had to come out of the game. Tyrod Taylor comes back in. That's not a terrible backup situation to have by any means. However, when your franchise guy, your future, goes down like that, you kind of hold your breath. So, luckily for them, Baker Mayfield was fine. He comes back in, and the Cleveland Browns have him back against a hot Falcons team. Started off the year struggling, and then they've won, I believe, 3 straight games. Their offense is fantastic. Julio Jones scored his first touchdown of the year yesterday, and the Browns will look to defend their home field at 2-6-1 against the Falcons at 4-4. Now, the Falcons are favored by 4 in this game. As much as I'd like to take the safe bet and pick the Falcons, I'm going to say Cleveland for this game because Cleveland has a running identity once again. Nick Chubb has been pretty good out of that Cleveland backfield. Then you still have your receivers on the outside with Jarvis Landry. Baker Mayfield is going to be healthy. That defense, this might be the best defense Atlanta's had to face yet. And because I really do believe that the Cleveland Browns have maybe a top 5 defense in this league. So I think this is going to be one of the tougher defenses that Atlanta's had to face yet. And I like the Browns to win this game against the Falcons in a close one in the end.
I would love to agree. But taking a look at the Browns injury report, Desmond Harrison, OT, inactive. Damari Scott, wide receiver, inactive. Cornerback E.J. Gaines, linebacker Christian Kirksey, and corner Denzel Ward, all questionable. Now, which usually gives about a 50-50 chance. But the odds would be that a couple of them, if they come back, will be limited, at least. Due to that, Julio's going to be Julio. He scored last week on a 40-yard screen pass, okay? And he's been terrific. He's going to be close to 2,000 yards when the year ends. He's going to shatter the record for receiving yards in a season. But I don't know. I'd like to say the Browns, but I think Atlanta takes it by 7 at least. Just due to the defensive injuries. I think it'd be close without that. But due to the defensive injuries, it's going to go Atlanta.
New England coming off of the win against the Green Bay Packers, traveling to Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans, who at the beginning of the year we were talking about them being Super Bowl contenders. They were 3-1. They just beat the Philadelphia Eagles. They were on top of the world. And then they lost 3 straight games. And it's not going to get any easier as I think New England blows them out at home. I don't really need to say much about it. Again, red hot Patriots team struggling, Tennessee Titans team. Give me the former and give me the Patriots.
Yeah, they're okay. Yeah, they're 3-4. They're 3 games behind the Texans. The Titans are. The safe bet is definitely New England. I just said I think they could go. They could win out the rest of the year. I'm gonna go. I got a weird feeling, so I'm going to go to Tennessee Titans and Marcus Mariota. Don't know why. Not a good chance at all that they actually pull this off, but I feel it. I'm feeling it. I feel it into my gut. I don't know how to explain it.
Jacksonville taking on the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. We all know the colossal downfall the Jaguars have been so far this year. They were in the AFC Championship last year, and here they are this year staring up at the Houston Texans. That's not necessarily a bad thing. The Texans have been great starting 0-3, and they've just been on a tear since then. But Jacksonville's defense has been lackluster, honestly, to say at best. The so-called the fantastic secondary tandem that we saw last year hasn't been what it was. The offense is finally getting exposed for its holes. Heck, we've seen Cody Kessler come in as the quarterback for them this year. They just signed Landry Jones for their third string quarterback this week. The Jaguars are in a struggling place, but they play against another team that struggled a little bit, the Indianapolis Colts. And because of that, I like Jacksonville to win this game on the road. It is a divisional game, so you can throw the records out the window, essentially. I like Jacksonville to win this game, and I think that Ramsey and Boye finally start to get right back on track, and they beat the Colts in this game in a close one at Indianapolis.
I would agree with that. With the small exception, who would you put on Eric Ebron? He's their leading receiver this year. T.Y. Hilton's not been as effective as I wish that he would be. But I think Ebron will still make plays. I want to say the Colts will win. I really do, because Andrew Luck's been a touchdown machine this year. But I'm going to have to go Jacksonville. Indianapolis defense is just so terrible. Like, it always has been, but so terrible. If Leonard Fournette plays, I don't really care who their quarterback is. Then they'll have TJ Yeldon, Leonard Fournette, and Carlos Hyde. And a decent receiving core. And any quarterback could play against this Indianapolis Colts defense. So give me Jacksonville.
The Arizona Cardinals traveling to Kansas City to take on the 8-1 Chiefs. The Chiefs are 8-1. They're on a roll. And they're going to steamroll their way until probably they play the Los Angeles Rams. I like the Chiefs to win this game big. Patrick Mahomes, phenomenal. 210 for 317 so far. Almost 3,000 yards and 29 touchdowns. It's week 10, people. That's what it's absolute insanity. I like the Chiefs to win this game big. I think Mahomes has a field day once again.
So hot take. Mahomes is going to throw 5 touchdowns to the left side of the field, not Peterson's side of the field, of course. And he's going to throw for maybe 800 yards. I don't really have any hope for this game. David Johnson's finally going to get it going on the ground. 5 touchdowns. He's not been doing too bad this year. He's going to get it going. Josh Rosen might put up a couple scores because the Chiefs' defense isn't great. But Patrick Mahomes might have the best game he's had all year. Just because when the Cardinals get down, they don't really fight back. They have 1 or 2 games, mostly against the Niners this year. But aside from the Niners games, they haven't been doing that. And it's in Kansas City. And Tyreek Hill, don't put him on Peterson. Match him up with anyone but Peterson. He's going to be gone. So yeah, Kansas City by 50.
And Arrowhead is the toughest place, probably right now anyways. You could rival maybe Foxborough, but that's one of the hardest places to play in all of the league is Arrowhead Stadium. The New York Jets playing host to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills. Their quarterback is rough. Nate Peterman is this might be a bold statement to some people, but Nate Peterman might be one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen at the NFL level. Because I want to tell you, in his first, I believe it's like 80-something pass attempts, he's thrown 11 interceptions. He has the second worst interception percentage in NFL history right now. He's thrown as many interceptions in that many passes as Aaron Rodgers has in over 900 career pass attempts. It's so bad. And the Bills, again, is there time for him to change and get some momentum? Sure. And against a Jets defense that's honestly not that great, it's possible. But the Bills are missing Josh Allen right now. They really don't want to play with Nate Peterman. I like the Jets to win this game at home, pretty big. They actually have an established guy who's played pretty well so far this year in Sam Darnold, Isaiah Crowell getting on the ground, Robbie Anderson in the receiving game. The Jets should dominate this game. The Bills have not looked great. They're 2-7 right now. And the games they've won, phenomenal. Josh Allen put together masterpieces in those games. This isn't Josh Allen. It's the Nate Peterman show, and it won't go on much longer. The Jets win this game.
Yeah, I think it's funny that you said that because Josh Allen, like those 2 wins they had, it was on him. But he has 2 touchdowns this year, 5 interceptions, 2 touchdowns on 140 attempts. I would say that Sam Darnold had the upper hand, but he threw 4 picks yesterday. 2 for touchdowns. Not for his team either. It's game of the week. Material. Blooper material. But I honestly don't know. Just because it's in New York and I like the coaching staff for New York a little better, I'm going New York. But we might see a different Nathan Peterman this week, so you never know. I'm going New York. He can't get any worse. I mean,
let me read you all a couple of tweets about Peterman real quick. From CBS Sports, insane but true. After throwing 3 interceptions and 0 touchdowns today, Nathan Peterman's career quarterback rating improved from 20.8 to 30.7. What? And then from Kevin Clark, the passes that Nathan Peterman throws have become self-aware and are now turning themselves over. You realize how bad you have to be to get jokes like that put on you? Another thing, too. He's thrown 7 career touchdown passes. He's also thrown 7 career pick sixes. I can't make this stuff up, people. This is actually what's happening in Buffalo right now. It's one of the worst quarterback displays we've ever seen on an NFL football field. So again, I like the Jets to win this game. I think if Peterman's going to get on track, it's going to be against this New York Jets defense. But I like the Jets with the advantage right now.
But just keep in mind, that's still 14 career touchdowns. And if you take those pick sixes out, that's only 4 interceptions. So we're looking at a pretty decent quarterback, but he's more of a double agent type deal. So,
yeah, how rough do you have to be when most of your interceptions are pick sixes? Like, that just means you're throwing short, right? Like, that means they are picking off short passes of you. How are you letting them pick off checkdowns on you regularly? That's the thing that's supposed to be safe for you. Anyways, we'll move on from Nathan Peterman. The Washington Redskins taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa. Washington coming off of a big loss last week to Atlanta, something I didn't necessarily expect to be that big. Tampa Bay fought hard. They were down 35-7 at the half against Carolina. Came back, made it interesting, but Carolina ended up taking the win at home. Tampa's got Washington at home. Again, I like the Redskins. I think they won the trade deadline with that trade for Clinton Dix. I think they win against the Bucks. Of course, Fitzpatrick will not make it. It will not be a blowout. Fitzpatrick will keep it interesting, but I like the Redskins to win today. I like the Redskins to beat the Buccaneers next week.
Fun fact, Ryan Fitzpatrick, after sitting out 3.5 games, has only 70 less passing yards than Alex Smith, has almost double the touchdowns and only 4 more interceptions. That's crazy. I know Mike Evans has been a man on a mission, on pace for 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns. Never heard of the running back before this year. Might be a rookie, I'm not sure. Anyway, I think Tampa wins. It's going to be a surprise. It's going to be a surprise upset, but it's in Tampa. It's like, 15-hour drive or probably longer, probably close to a 20-hour drive for Washington, given they're probably not driving, they're probably flying. But again, Adrian Peterson's been playing well. Their defense has been playing phenomenal. But I picked Washington last week for, I think, the first or second time all year. They really disappointed me, so I'm kind of salty. So I'm picking Tampa Bay. And Tampa's defense isn't terrible. So, yeah, give me that.
The Los Angeles Chargers, and they're sitting here at 6-2. If the Kansas City Chiefs weren't 8-1, then we'd be talking about the Chargers a lot more. But they're playing against the Raiders. The Raiders are terrible. I don't have another word for it. That, for a lack of better words, they are just terrible. There's really not a bright spot in the team right now. Point it out to me, and I'll be happy to accept it. But the Los Angeles Chargers will have a field day in Oakland because, like I said, the Raiders got a win earlier this year against the Cleveland Browns. If not, they would be awful. Give me the Chargers to win this game.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon's averaging over 5 yards a carry. Just throw that out there. Phillip Rivers, his whole career is underrated this year. I read an article saying why he should be in the MVP conversation. Up there with Pat Mahomes, Drew Brees, Todd Gurley. I agree. I totally agree that he should be up there. 2,200 yards through 8 games, 19 touchdowns, only 3 picks. I think they're going to go into Oakland. Not much of a drive for them. They're going to destroy the Raiders. I think Derek Carr, I've been saying this for weeks, puts together a decent game. But Phillip Rivers and that offense, and even their defense with Joey Bosa being perfectly healthy now, man, I actually have to go San Diego or Los Angeles now without a shadow of a doubt.
The Miami Dolphins traveling to Lambeau to take on the Green Bay Packers. Again, Green Bay struggled recently. They just dropped a game against but let's keep in mind who they've played. They played in a close game with Los Angeles. The Rams just barely lost in that game. Then they go to Foxborough. Not easy for anybody on any standard. They get the Dolphins at home. After some losses like that, I think that Green Bay gets another win, and they do win this game. Brock Osweiler has been playing for the Miami Dolphins, and again, You can't. Aaron Rodgers, 15 touchdowns and 1 interception this year. I like them to win this game against Miami.
Yeah, I have to. I don't know. I like Miami. They're only 2 games back behind New England. I don't know the reason I don't think New England will lose, because they might actually lose their number one position in the division to Miami if Miami keeps it up. But it's in Lambeau. It's in mid-November. And Aaron Rodgers, like you said, 15-1 interception ratio, on pace for 5,100 passing yards this year, like second of all time. Man, yeah, they traded timeout, they traded Ha-Ha, but I don't think they need them to win in mid-November in Green Bay. So I'm taking Green Bay by about 3.
Seattle going to Los Angeles. You take me back last year, a couple years ago, this would have been a primetime matchup with the Legion of Boom taking on the Los Angeles Rams and this fantastic team. Now it should be a laugher. Seahawks are going to Los Angeles. The Rams, they just came off that loss to to New Orleans. This is honestly one of the worst case scenarios Seattle could have had. Now they're going to be inspired. They're going to be motivated. They get a home game against the Seattle Seahawks. They're going to win this game by a lot. Give me the Rams to win by more than 2 touchdowns.
And these two teams usually play each other pretty tough, but we've seen a Todd Gurley the past 2 years. Now Brandon Cooks playing to the level that the Rams haven't had, honestly, since 2001. And this is the first time they started off 8-1 since 2001. You had Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce. The greatest show on turf. Give me the Rams. No one's going to touch the Rams for the rest of the year except maybe, the next game the Rams play after this, which is against the Chiefs. I don't see anybody really competing with the Rams except for the Chiefs, Saints, and Patriots. So I have to go the Rams by, again, a landslide. 3 touchdowns maybe.
Dallas taking on Philadelphia. This one's always a great game to look out for. NFC East rivalry. Probably the only game, honestly, that's more entertaining to watch most of the time might be the Eagles and Giants. But Eagles and Cowboys in Philadelphia. Cowboys are sitting at 3-4. The Eagles are at 4-4. Here's what I'm going to highlight in this game. Do I think that Dallas has a great chance to win? Absolutely. Philadelphia has struggled at times this year, and I think that Dallas has put together some pretty great performances. However, I'm going to highlight one thing about this game, and that's going to really ultimately make my pick. The Cowboys are 0-4 on the road this year. The Eagles are 2-2. I like Philadelphia to win this game at home. The line is Philadelphia favored by 6. I don't see that. I don't think it's going to be that. I like the Cowboys to cover the spread, but I like the Eagles to win in a very close game at home.
I don't even think it'll be that close. Golden Tate may be the best offensive weapon Carson Wentz has had. Of course, he has Jeffrey, but Jeffrey is more of a big body guy, not as shifty. And yeah, they're doing a running back by committee in Philly due to some injuries. But yeah, I've got to say, I think Philly takes it. Their defense is kind of playing a little better. I think they got to shift some guys around a little bit. But like I said, Golden State's acquisition is going to be, or Golden Tate, the acquisition of him is going to be big time. I don't think the Cowboys have anyone to counter it on their defense. Given, like you said, Dallas has a chance in Philly, plus the acquisition, plus Carson Wentz is playing MVP football. Kind of been overshadowed because they haven't been great this year as a team, but still playing MVP football. Give me Philly, and I think it's probably going to be about 6, like the line says.
And finally, again, this is another example of why sometimes the NFL should take a page from the NCAA's book and be able to change their broadcasting schedule whenever they can, because it's Monday Night Football, yeah, but it's the New York Giants versus the San Francisco 49ers. Between the two of them, we have a combined 3-win games. It's not been good. Eli Manning has been really, I don't have another word, has been abhorrent this year. Odell Beckham's still been pretty good, but here's a stat. Eli Manning, out of the 2,300 passing yards he has, almost 800 of them are to Odell Beckham. Like, it's just not been good. The Giants, there's not, same thing with at least with the Giants, I could point out a bright spot on that team, unlike the Raiders. But here they are, 1-7. And in fact, fun fact, the only game they've won this year has been on the road against I don't remember who it was against off the top of my head. I believe it was Jacksonville. Or no, it was not Jacksonville. It was it was the Texans. It was the Houston Texans on the road. But with that being said, I'm on the Nick Mullins train. Give me the 49ers to win this game against the struggling New York Giants.
Since we're throwing fun facts out, I'll just throw one out. Eli Manning's top 5 in passing yards this year right now. Quite funny, I think. 8 touchdowns, which is the same amount as C.J. Beathard, who's only played 5 of their 9 games. 8 touchdowns. Like you said, there's actually bright spots on the Giants team. I think there's bright spots on the Niners as well. Terrible matchup. I feel like the Niners should have like 6 wins because they've played a really bad slate of teams this year. Seems like every week they're playing against a 1 or 2 win team. But yeah, I'm around the Nick Mullins train as well. He's the GOAT. There's an Instagram page, Nick Mullins is GOAT. Follow it. It's gold. But yeah, I've got to agree. Nick Mullins is a monster. Reminds me a little bit of Brett Favre. You see the connection there. I'm going Nick Mullins the Niners. 3-7 after this.
That's going to do it for our week-by-week NFL predictions. Again, one of our favorite things to do on the show. And we're moving on to another great thing that we love to talk about is NCAA football. There have been several big games last week. Everyone knew about the LSU-Alabama matchup. It was going to be huge. LSU's going to knock off. Oh, they lost 24-0 at home. They got shut out in their own field. That's just how dominant of a team that Alabama is, though. And then you take a look with the West Virginia Mountaineers outlasting the Texas Longhorns on the road. Heroics coming out from Will Grier. And again, the Mountaineers, they really now they control their own destiny in the Big 12. Some other big games. Missouri knocked off Florida with a score of 30. Let's see. Make sure I'm reading that right. 38-17. Big game there. Michigan dismantled Penn State 42-7. Notre Dame continued their undefeated streak. Again, Alabama, not 24-0. Alabama actually won 29-0. Apparently I didn't do enough respect on Tua Tagovailoa's name there. The Georgia Bulldogs and the Kentucky Wildcats in a game for the SEC East Division title, pretty much. If Kentucky had won this game and they'd won out, they would win the SEC East, considering they had beaten Georgia. But Georgia got the dub here. They won 34-17, and they have only lost 1 game. And because of the SEC East records, they win the SEC East. So they will face the Alabama Crimson Tide in the SEC Championship game in Atlanta. So big games there coming out. Of course, Virginia Tech did lose again to Boston College. And really, that was all the main big-time games for the past week. Again, we saw actually on a Friday night, UVA, I thought was very high on, actually lost to Pitt 23-13. So, moving on to Week 11. Again, reminder, NCAA, they're always a week ahead of the NFL and the regular season. So, starting off Week 11 matchups, we have a Big Ten matchup with Ohio State versus Michigan State. Michigan State's offense is not very good. Ohio State is good. They struggled a little bit last week with Nebraska, but I like Ohio State to win this game on the road. Dwayne Haskins has been phenomenal this year, and give me the Buckeyes to beat the Spartans.
Yeah, Michigan State can be one of those pesky teams that seem to have a decent team every year, but if they're not really, really good, they're just outside the really, really good bubble. Could be pesky, but I don't think Ohio State will have trouble handling the job there.
South Carolina taking on Florida in Gainesville. Florida coming off of that loss to Missouri. And I knew it was going to happen at some point this year. Florida's secondary is not what it was in the past, and Missouri has a lethal passing game with Drew Lock and several other fantastic receivers in that offense. What is the one thing that South Carolina does really, really well? It's pass the ball. Or they do a lot, I should say. Jake Bentley, they throw the ball a ton. But Florida, after facing Missouri, I think they rebounded. They get a win in Gainesville at the Swamp, as much as I'd like to see South Carolina win that game.
I don't know. Florida's coming off 2 straight losses, and South Carolina's coming off 2 straight wins. And against not bad teams. I mean, Tennessee's been up and down this year, but Ole Miss as well. And they played some good teams, but stayed close with Missouri. Lost by 2 scores to the University of Kentucky. Lost by 3 points to A&M. Give me South Carolina. They've been hanging with the big dogs, and I don't think this will be any different. Look at their schedule. South Carolina's unranked. Florida's 6-3. And number 11. I don't know. I think South Carolina wins here and shows why Florida might not even be worthy of being in the top 25.
Navy taking on UCF. Navy coming off of not too long ago a loss to Notre Dame, the undefeated 2 weeks ago. The undefeated Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They're going to Central Florida. I like the Knights to win this game at home. It could be a trap game. Navy's never an easy opponent to take down, but coming from San Diego all the way across the country to take on Florida, I like Central Florida to win this game.
Give me Florida, extend the win streak. That's all I got to say.
TCU and West Virginia, Big 12 football at its finest. West Virginia, like I said, they control their own destiny in the Big 12 right now. If they win out, they make the Big 12 championship, and they will take on whoever it is from the other side in the Big 12 championship. Now, that will include, if they win out, they have to win against Oklahoma. They will play one time in this regular season. I like West Virginia to win this game against TCU, and they take momentum into the game against the Sooners.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree that West Virginia wins this game. I think, again, by a landslide. Ohio State's ranked now, or Iowa State's ranked now, so makes West Virginia's loss look a little bit better. And Will Greer's been taking care of the football since that game, so I think that was a good loss for them. And I think that he continues to play phenomenal, makes a case for the number 1 quarterback in the draft, and destroys TCU. And like you said, takes the momentum into Oklahoma next week.
Mississippi State, Hail State traveling to the Dragon's Lair in Tuscaloosa in the CBS SEC Game of the Week. I've said this on every single week so far, and I'm going to say it again, even though I'm sure y'all are tired of hearing it. It's Alabama's world, and everyone else is living in it. Tide win by more than 3 touchdowns.
Right. I rightfully predicted Tua threw his first interception last week. I'm ashamed of that, but he's going to throw like 4 touchdowns this week. And like you said, it's not going to be much of a competition. Give me Bama.
Washington State at Colorado. I remember Colorado was undefeated at one point this year. They were rolling, looking like they were going to take control of the Pac-12, and then they've struggled the past little bit. Washington State, however, has been just the opposite. They've been phenomenal in recent action. I think they win against Colorado, continuing the Buffs' descent, but continuing their ascent at their number 8 in the country right now.
Yeah, I think Washington State wins and continues to push for a playoff spot, which is kind of weird to say. But yeah, Washington State's going to win this one.
Kentucky at Tennessee. Tennessee coming off a win. You could call this a loss. They beat Charlotte 14-3 at home. It's not impressive. Their offensive line without Trey Smith has not been good. Kentucky, on the other hand, they're coming off a loss to Georgia, which is not a bad loss at all. Benny Snell Jr. has still been incredible on the ground other than that game against Georgia last week. And I like Kentucky to win this game at Neyland for the first time in over 30 years. Or, excuse me, I'm not sure exactly what the year total is, but it's been a very long time since Kentucky has won a game in Neyland Stadium.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kentucky wins, and I think it's going to be pretty one-sided. And they're going to be having fun. Their players are going to be having fun this game in a blowout.
Virginia Tech taking on Pittsburgh in Heinz Field. If there is a game that Virginia Tech can win to get themselves back on track, it's against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has been up and down. They've been good so far this year. But I like Virginia Tech to get back on track, beating the Pittsburgh Panthers on the road. And they're not out of the. It's insane for me to think of this. They're not out of the ACC championship yet. They need a little bit of help, but they don't control their own destiny anymore. But they're not out of this by any means. So I like Tech to get back on track and beat Pittsburgh on the road this week.
Yeah, I agree. More of a personal bias, but if there's any team I dislike more than Tech, it's Pittsburgh. And yeah, I have to go. I have to agree. I think this is a perfect opportunity for Tech to get back in a rhythm. If nothing else, get some momentum so the young guys can carry it into next year. I really like that, and I think Tech is good at doing that as well. I'm giving that momentum for the youngsters to start the next year off hot. And I think this could be a big game for them, and I think they do win.
Auburn at Georgia, the big rivalry, one of the bigger SEC East versus SEC West matchups. As my co-host Isaiah Addair does need to go off to a class, but don't worry, I'll still stick around for a little while. The Auburn Tigers, at the beginning of this year, this rivalry looked like it was going to be so much closer and so much better of a game, but Auburn's on a spiral. Georgia's lost one game this year, and I like Georgia to handle their business at home, even though it is a rivalry game. That's always important. You don't necessarily have to keep in mind with records, but Georgia's been on a roll here recently. Elijah Holyfield in the backfield with a two-headed monster at quarterback with Jake Fromm and Justin Fields. The Georgia Bulldogs give the Auburn Tigers defense troubles, and they win big in this game. And LSU and Arkansas. LSU wins this game. Arkansas is not good. LSU is good. They've only lost 2 games this year, and one to Florida and one to Alabama. They beat Arkansas, and they continue moving on. The Texas Longhorns look for a rebound against the Texas Tech Red Raiders in what's always going to be a fun rivalry, Texas matchup. I like the Longhorns to get back on track, and I think they do beat the Red Raiders in this game on the road. Clemson at Boston College. ACC matchup, Clemson's undefeated. Boston College coming off of a win against Virginia Tech at Lane Stadium this past week. Clemson, phenomenal. I can't say that word enough today. Trevor Lawrence, the freshman quarterback, has been outstanding so far this year, and they win. The Eagles might fall out of the top 25 once again this year as the Tigers beat them pretty handily on the road. That's going to do it for NCAA. Now moving on to our last segment of the day with Major League Baseball. The World Series is over. We're starting to turn into the offseason. There's still some big name acquisitions that are going to be out there, and we'll keep those in mind later on. But for now, we're talking about the NBA. NBA this year has been pretty close. A few upstart and surprises. But first, let's go over the standings review at this point. Remember, it's early in the season. These can absolutely change. We have in the Eastern Conference, leading it is the Toronto Raptors at 9-1, the Milwaukee Bucks at 8-1, the Indiana Pacers at 7-3, the Boston Celtics at 6-3, the Philadelphia 76ers at 6-5, the Charlotte Hornets at 5-5, the Detroit Pistons, after starting off red hot, at 4-4, and the Brooklyn Nets. That team that's been has been a bottom dweller for the past 5 years. They are now 4-6 and in the playoffs at this moment. Now remember, the Miami Heat will most likely figure it out, and I think they will get into the playoffs. But other than that, really, the Eastern Conference is wide open on the playoff race. You have your set playoff contenders, which I think are the Raptors, the Celtics, the Sixers, and the Bucks, and maybe the Pacers. But other than those 5 teams, those last 3 playoff spots are wide open, in my opinion. So the East, plenty of time to get it worked out, and we could have some very close playoff races. In the West, the Golden State Warriors, who else is on top at 9-1? The Denver Nuggets are at number 2 at 8-1. Something that I've thought that could be possible. I didn't expect this. They're 8-1. They haven't played anybody too tough other than the Warriors. In fact, that one loss that Golden State has is to Denver. But Denver, surprising so far. The Portland Trail Blazers are at 3. Another team I was pretty surprised with at 7-3. They were a team that lost a good bit in the offseason. I didn't expect them to be anything this year, but now they're sitting here at 7-3 right now. And if they continue this momentum, Dame's playing great, CJ McCollum's playing great, Seth Curry coming off the bench has been playing great. I think that Portland, if they can continue going, they're going to be a very dark horse team and a surprising team so far early in the season. The San Antonio Spurs are at 6-3, another team that's been a little bit of a surprise. The Memphis Grizzlies at 5-3, the Sacramento Kings at 6-4, the LA Clippers at 5-4, and the Oklahoma City Thunder at 4-4. Let me just read this to you to make what the early part of this Western Conference, how surprising it's been. Out of the top 8 teams right now, Golden State, Portland, San Antonio, and Oklahoma City are the only teams that made the playoffs last year. The Nuggets did not make the playoffs, the Grizzlies did not make the playoffs, the Kings did not make the playoffs, and the Clippers did not make the playoffs last year. The Jazz, Pelicans, Timberwolves, and Rockets are sitting below 500. The Rockets are 3-5 right now. Granted, James Harden is hurt, but this just should show how tough the Western Conference is this year so far, because we take a look at the team that the Lakers have with LeBron James creating LA Bron. They're 4-6 right now. They just took a huge loss last night to the Toronto Raptors without Kawhi Leonard. So the Western Conference and the top of the Eastern Conference is tough this year. It's not going to be an easy fight for anybody. Golden State should still win. Should still cruise through the Western Conference, but and especially when DeMarcus Cousins does get back. However, it's been smooth sailing for them so far, and some few upstarts. We should see some changes later on in the season. Another thing that I want to talk about is the Players of the Week. So that's something that they like to. That really is something that the NBA likes to do. It's how a lot of people can tell who is in the lead for maybe a play or an MVP, maybe something that again, look for something that's maybe an MVP, maybe a most improved player. And in the past week, it's been Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek Freak, and Stephen Curry for the Western Conference. Those two have been phenomenal. Giannis, although his jumper is still suspect at times, Curry has been lights out from deep. Giannis is still a defensive monster and just an all-around athletic freak. So Giannis Antetokounmpo and Stephen Curry are the Week 2 Players of the Week. And again, plenty of changes coming up for the NBA this season, and a lot of excitement remaining in the season. Well, that is going to do it here on Hot Takes with Holmes from Radio Free Radford. If you like what you heard today, then be sure to like our Facebook page, where we'll update all that goes on here on Hot Takes with Holmes. That goes for updates about show times, updates about where our broadcasts are uploaded to, which we also have a YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to that YouTube channel. We upload all of our broadcasts there, so maybe you missed a part in this broadcast or you want to go back and check out some of our past broadcasts. Be sure to follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. Both are Hot Takes with Holmes. You'll be able to, again, find updates about the show, and we'll post on Facebook, of course, when the broadcasts are uploaded to our YouTube channel. Again, if you ever like what you hear on Radio Free Radford at any point, or even if you don't, go and follow their social media pages. Their Twitter at Radio Free Raddy, Instagram Radio Free Radford, and Facebook is Radio Free Radford. Like, comment, follow their social media pages to be able to keep up with the fantastic content that goes out on this online radio station each and every day, and some other great content as well. So, that's going to do it here for me. For my co-host Isaiah Addair, I'm Blake Holmes, and we'll see you next week here on Radio Free Radford.